I'm here.
Oh, you hear me, Matego? Lovely. You made it.
Sure.
Great. Great job.
Morning, Mr. Rodgers.
Good morning,
How are
everyone.
you doing?
Morning, Brenda.
Morning.
Hi, how are you, Lizette?
Good, and you?
Very well, thank you.
Nice, nice.
Morning, HOD. Good morning, Mr. Redmond. And Miss Sunny.
Good morning.
Hi.
So we're just waiting for the chairperson to enter the meeting. I'll just quickly send him a WhatsApp to find out what's happening from his side.
Dustin, I think I'm the only one excited for this meeting.
Welcome.
Okay.
Hi, how are you? How are you, good people?
We are well.
Morning, sir.
Yeah, that's you looking very well. Rent, how are you?
I'm very well, sir. Thank you very much. I'm well. Just need a haircut, but otherwise I'm good.
Yeah, good. You know, where was I with you in Austria at some stage?
That's correct. That is correct.
Yeah, you remember those were the days.
I remember it.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah, no, we had to. Were you there when we had to play in that match? You know, they were having
No, I
those
wasn't in that
five-a-sides.
part.
You were not there.
No, I wasn't in that part. But I was with you in Austria. That's correct.
Yeah, no.
Chairperson,
Yes, Honorable.
how are you, Chair?
I think I'm fine, man. How are you, Honorable?
We are all fine. We've been waiting for you, and we appreciate your presence.
Yes, we're starting at past, Mosne.
Chair, we are 6
Chair,
minutes
quarter
late.
past.
Quarter past.
Yes, Chair. That is why I'm wondering the Austria recap.
No, my apologies, man. Sincere apologies. Then for some reasons, man, I just put on my diary 10:30. Sincere apologies for that. I think then in view of that, honorable members, can I just have an indication that all of us, the honorable members that are here, that are present?
Good morning, Chair Derek America.
I can see the, okay, yes, Honorable America, but I don't see you. Honorable America?
I'm here, don't worry. I don't want to scare you.
No, I can see the fighter is there, and I see Honorable Matodi is there.
Yeah.
And I think in view of that, I think let us then get started. Welcome, honorable members. The advocate is also present as well. Once again, honorable members, my sincere apologies. For some reason, I just misread this for 10:30. And then now, I think then if we can go to the agenda, we are also joined by the support staff of the Standing Committee on Public Accounts. That is Dustin.
Morning, Chairperson.
And then Lizette.
Good morning, Chairperson. Morning.
So yeah, then the team is in full swing. Once again, welcome, honorable members. I think we are having, I think it's our second virtual meeting of the Standing Committee on Public Accounts. And then for purposes of considering issues that are on the agenda, what I would like us to do, Mr. David, can you just quickly take us through the agenda, and thereafter we are going to get started.
No problem, Chairperson. Can you hear me, Chair?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, so what we're doing today, Chair, we have invited the Department of Economic Development and Tourism, as well as the Department of Cultural Affairs and Sport, to just report back to the committee on some of the resolutions that has been taken during last year's annual report period, Chairperson. So during the annual report period, October last year, the committee met with the two respective departments, Chair, and concluded to make resolutions, which is why the departments are here, Chairperson, and just to get feedback on the mechanisms or further explanations on what was discussed during the 2018-19 annual report period with the department's Chairperson. So, Chairperson, we have currently in the meeting, we have the Department of Cultural Affairs and Sport Chairperson. The Department of Economic Development and Tourism is not yet in, Chairperson. So I don't know if you want to, seeing that the Department of Cultural Affairs is in, Chair, if you want to start with them first, although they are on the program as second to present, Chairperson. I'm not sure if you want to proceed with DCAS to present first, Chair?
I think, thanks very much, Dustin. I think let us start with the delegation that is present. If the department, DCAS is here, let us hand over to them. And then if you may just please introduce the delegation, and thereafter we will continue.
Thank you very much, Chair. Brent Walters here, HOD for DCAS. I am accompanied this morning by our CFO, Ms. Rutgers, and also by our Program 2 and Program 3 Manager and Chief Director for Cultural Affairs, Mr. Guy Redman, Ms. Cecilia Sani, who is the Director for Library Services, and then Mr. Dr. Mokalisi Lamuka, who is the Director for Heritage and Museums. Chair, we prepared a presentation, which our CFO will do, and it's in relation to the assets. So this is our team here before the committee this morning. Thank you very much for having us, and I will hand straight over to Ms. Rutgers.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rutgers. Mrs. Rutgers.
Good morning, Chair. Thank you, HOD. Okay, so can we move to the next slide? Okay, so Chair and committee members, just to give an indication of the outline of the presentation. So the purpose of the presentation is to brief scoper on the following 2018-19 resolutions. Firstly, outcome of the investigation on capital assets. I've actually included both minor and major assets identified as lost during the 18-19 asset verification process. The self-insurance model for departmental capital assets as well as heritage assets. Preservation model for heritage assets and associated costs, as well as the impact on amortization and depreciation of assets. Okay, we can move to the next slide. Okay, so this is just an indication of the outcome of the investigation. So firstly, on minor assets, library material in public libraries. Initially, the assets identified as lost during the verification was 112,492 items to the value of 7,854,000. Assets found during the investigation was 34,498 assets to the value of 2,526,000. And after the investigation, what the public libraries confirmed as lost was 77,994 items to the value of 5,328,000. So the process that we follow, and in terms of our policy, once all losses has been confirmed, it's then submitted via a submission to the accounting officer to write it off. And that happens after the 12-month search period that is afforded to the public libraries. Then in terms of capital assets, major and minor assets, we had initially indicated in the annual report 412 items to the value of 1,125,000. We were able to find 235 of the 412 to the value of 612,000. And to date, there is 177 still under investigation to the value of 513,000. However, the investigation is still underway. Unfortunately, with the closing of the department in March, they were still busy searching for those items. So that is ongoing, and we will proceed with that once we return to normal. And just to note, public libraries are afforded 12 months to search for lost library material. Losses related to regional libraries are subjected to an investigation by internal control, and the same applies to our normal assets that we subject to an investigation. Okay, we can move to the next slide. So the issue of self-insurance that was raised at our hearing last year. So just to indicate that none of the department's assets are insured. So we then follow National Treasury regulations, are 12.1.1 and 12.1.2. That stipulates, firstly, subject to the provisions of this regulation or any other legislation or agreement, the state will bear its own damages and accident risks and be responsible for all claims and losses of state property where these arise from state activities by an official who is liable in law and who is or was employed by an institution. Secondly, notwithstanding the first paragraph, accounting officer of an institution may, if deemed economical and based on a risk assessment, insure motor vehicles, including hired vehicles or such other movable assets determined by the relevant treasury, but the insurance premium cost may not exceed 250,000 a year on that boat unless otherwise approved by the relevant treasury. So I've actually taken the liberty of checking with provincial treasury, and it was confirmed that none of the provincial department's assets are insured. So, and then just to indicate in terms of section 45 and 55E of the PFMA, an official in a department or public entity is responsible for the management, including the safeguarding of the assets within that official's area of responsibility, which means that they take ownership in terms of safeguarding those assets that is allocated to them. Okay, we can go to the next one. So the department's assets are not insured, as I've mentioned. Losses, damages to state property is managed in terms of the department's loss control policy. So all assets that could not be found during an asset verification is then subjected to an investigation by the internal control unit. Okay, and then based on the recommendation of the internal control unit, we either write it off, in other words, it's been submitted to the accounting officer for write-off, or where, for example, it's found that officials were negligent, they are held liable for the cost of the lost or damaged assets. In terms of the municipalities, part of the agreement with them is that they are required to safeguard library books. So municipalities then provide book detectors, safety gates, burglar bars, and physical security to safeguard library books. We'll move to the next one. So in terms of heritage assets, so currently heritage assets are located within museums only. So museums hold cultural heritage assets that are unique, irreplaceable, and priceless. These heritage assets are not insured. Generally, assets are insured relevant to its value. So, but in the case of heritage assets, in many cases, these assets or artifacts are not bought, but are donated or bequeathed to museums. It is therefore difficult or impossible to attach a monetary value to these artifacts, or the monetary value is low, but the intrinsic curatorial value is high. Due to the provenance of the objects, financial compensation for loss is irrelevant in that they cannot be replaced. The cost of valuation, obviously, it's also quite significant. So museums generally do not have the means to have the artifacts evaluated. In line with museological practices, it is then prudent to invest in security and preventative conservation of heritage assets as opposed to insuring them. The museological practice implemented is to invest in securing the venue in which the heritage assets or artifacts are held. And for the 2021 financial year, just to give an indication of the cost, affiliated museums project to spend approximately 2.7 million on securing buildings in order to secure that museums' artifacts are properly secured. You can move to the next slide. So in terms of the preservation model for heritage assets and associated costs, museums keep heritage assets for the benefit of present and future generations. And as a result, it is critical that heritage assets are properly conserved and preserved. The conservation and preservation of heritage assets involves technical and scientific application of certain chemicals, manipulation of temperature, and many other processes in order to ensure that heritage assets are kept in perpetuity. Cost factors, the practice in museology is that there are regular preventative conservation in order to avoid the deterioration of quality of heritage assets or museums artifacts. Costs associated with care of museums artifacts, heritage assets are determined by the extent to which preventative conservation are applied. And just in terms of the costs for the 2020-21 financial year, museums project to spend approximately 500,000 to conserve museums artifacts that are housed by affiliated museums. Okay, we can move to the next. And then just to give an indication about the amortization and depreciation of assets, this was a question that was raised, I think, by Member Bartman during our hearing. So just to indicate, assets are treated in line with the modified cash standards, which in terms of Chapter 11, capital assets. So the definitions, capital assets are non-current tangible or intangible assets. Heritage assets are capital assets that have a cultural, environmental, historical, natural, scientific, technological, or artistic significance and are held indefinitely for the benefit of present and future generations. So in terms of Chapter 11 and the MCS, the initial measurement indicates that a movable asset that qualifies for recording as a capital asset shall be measured at its cost. And the cost is then deemed the actual amount paid for that asset. Okay, so that is when we purchase, when we actually record it at initial stages. The subsequent measurement in terms of Chapter 11, paragraph 87 and 88, after initial recording, a capital asset shall be carried at its cost, which means that we do not apply depreciation or amortization to our assets. So currently, all capital assets remain in the asset register at the original cost or deemed cost. Capital assets are not depreciated, nor subject to impairment testing or valuation adjustments for appreciation or devaluation. Costs may only be adjusted to correct an error or on a change of accounting policy. Okay, and I think that covers my presentation. Thank you very much. I'll take questions.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Radgers. Honorable members, are there any questions that you'd like to ask? Or Advocate?
Thank you, Chair. I want to refer to slide number 4. When it spoke there about the movable assets, let me just get to the slide quickly. It spoke there under 12.1.2 that an accounting officer of an institution may insure motor vehicles, including hired vehicles, or such other movable assets determined by the relevant Treasury. So what is the other movable assets determined by the relevant Treasury? Because that insurance premium may not exceed 250,000 Rand a year. And I would probably think that some of the items within arts and cultural might be things that could be replaced and might even be movable, for example. So I just want to understand what is that list of movable items. And then on the items such as art that cannot be replaced, I just want to understand how does the department then compensate for the money spent on security and maintenance? I think maintenance is a rough word probably for keeping the art in its original state or as close as possible. Yes, thank you.
Okay, sorry, Jay, I'm just trying to get to. Okay, so just in terms of the first question, the movable assets. So the 12.1.2 is in terms of the National Treasury regulations. So other movable assets includes all other assets that is not mentioned besides, for example, insured motor vehicles, including hired vehicles, or any movable assets, which means our tables, chairs, normal capitals that we use in the rendering of our services are included in those movable assets. But I think what is meant here is in order to insure movable assets, there must be a request to the relevant Treasury who will then indicate whether it would be in order to insure assets. As I've indicated, at this point, departments are not insuring the normal assets like the chairs, desks, etc. in terms of movable assets. I think some of the departments might have, for example, strategic assets that is of very great value that would warrant insurance. But at this point, like I said, I've actually taken the liberty to speak to Aziz Hardin, who is our Accountant General within the province, and he has confirmed that none of the department's assets, movable assets, are in fact insured. Okay. The second question, in terms of irreplaceable, that is a heritage-related question. So if I can ask Dr. Lambuka to maybe respond to that one.
Over to you, Doc. Yellow.
Good morning.
Yes.
Good morning, members. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes, you can continue, Doc. Hello? Hello? It looks like we might have connection problems there. Can you hear me, members?
Yes,
Hello?
I can hear you, Chair.
Hear you, Chair.
Yes, Chair,
Okay.
we can hear you.
I think we've lost the doctor there.
Yeah.
I think then, can I ask Honorable Maseko? I see your hand is up.
Yes, Chair. I just wanted to find out from the HOD, one slide was talking about where they cannot find the assets. The investigation is being done by the internal control unit. So I just wanted to find, is there a cost when that investigation is taking place? And then how do they quantify those assets? Do they know what is it that is missing? And do they have the register to those things that are missing as we speak now? And it's how much? What is the cost attached to that assets that are missing from the department?
So maybe just to say firstly, number one, the cost for internal audit to conduct such an investigation is absorbed within our internal cost, because essentially they would be permanent, internal control. There would be internal members to be able to do that, to look at, conduct the investigation and then make a recommendation to the accounting officer at the end of that recommendation. So I don't think there's a cost in relation to that. The other thing is they would know, certainly if it was a laptop, for example, that then went missing and they have to conduct the investigation, we'd know what we purchased that laptop for, and then obviously we'd have a value that we'd be able to attach to that. I don't know if the CFO wants to add anything.
Yes, HOD, you are quite correct. So basically, all our assets are recorded in our asset register. And when we do asset verification, the asset register forms the basis of that asset verification. So obviously, so the process of asset verification is they would have the register, they will go to the location and they will go and identify the assets as recorded on the asset register. And the ones that are not found is then listed and then subjected to an investigation by the internal control unit. If that answers the question.
Yes, it does. Chair, can I just ask a follow-up on the same?
Yes, continue, Honorable.
Okay, thank you very much. I just want to find, maybe if you can give us an example of when you cannot locate your assets. It's under which circumstances that happens usually. Maybe the common one. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, I'll respond to that one. So remember, in most cases, because assets are movable, so what we find in most cases is where, for example, it was initially located on the asset register in a certain location, during the investigation, it's not found, right? Therefore, we then subjected to the investigation. So what normally in most cases, those assets are in fact found when they do the investigation. So just to also indicate responsibility of officials. So for example, we've had incidences where officials went for official business, they parked the car somewhere and the car is then broken into and the laptop, for example, is stolen. In that case, it's a requirement of that particular official or the responsibility of that official to actually report those incidences. So they then have to go to the police station, do a statement, an affidavit, and then those assets are then written off, basically, based on the value, the cost that is recorded in the asset register.
Thanks very much. Any further questions or follow-up from members?
Chair Deirdre Bartman.
Yes, Advocate.
Chair, it's a follow-up on both Member Maseko and my questions, but linked. So we now know that other movable assets include things like tables, okay? And we've now heard that Aziz Hardin, I think he's the Accountant General, said that that none of the departments are insured, okay, for their assets, okay? So now I just want to understand, because I can understand why an artifact where no monetary value can be attached is not insured, because you can never get it back. That I understand. But when it comes to things like tables, and in the example of the books from the library, for example, those are all other movable assets. So I would just like to understand, why do we then not insure those assets that we know we can buy back? That we know that, for example, we lose about 20% or usually about 30% books maybe are stolen from libraries or something, so that we can, for example, buy the same books back. So I just want to understand what exactly is the reasoning behind it.
Mr. Walters or Mrs. Radgas?
Chair, so I think I can ask Cecilia just to talk around the library books, because remember, we buy the library books, right? We then distribute it to libraries, but safeguarding those books is the responsibility of the libraries. And therefore, they invest in, security to ensure the safety of the books, to in fact minimize losses. But if Cecilia can maybe just speak around the approach in terms of insurance, because I know that they do insure buildings, but not the contents. So Cecilia, if you can maybe just add to that.
Sorry.
Yes. Okay.
Oh, okay, Cecilia, just before you come in, maybe you can just come in on the library stuff. But I just wanted to just make a general comment. Sorry, my mic was on mute, I apologize. And Chair, my mic was on mute. Maybe just to say, I think one of the things about insurance is that they look potentially at the overall, this is not in the state, the overall level of assets that they have, and then looking at what their risks are, and made a decision generally that we don't insure, because if we were to insure everything, I think the cost will be astronomical if you think of the number of assets that the state controls. I think that's the reason. Obviously, we can get a more, let's say, cogent reason from the people who work in Treasury, will give us that. It probably is the regulation and so on that they can indicate to us. But I just wanted to make the point that, in my understanding, always been told that the state is basically its own insurer, because it's so huge, there's so many assets, and that essentially that's the situation. And then exceptions are made where there's perhaps something of high value, or potentially they feel that the risk is too great. They then take insurance. That's my understanding, but obviously I could be subject to correction, Chair. Sorry, Cecilia, you may go ahead.
Good morning, thank you. No, HRD, that's 100% correct. So the losses of the libraries are below 2%, really, annually. So the cost for insuring all the books is extremely expensive. So what the municipalities do is they do insure our books, but that's more for natural disasters, or when the building burns down, or for major losses, not for the normal annual asset verification.
Thank you very much. I saw Honorable America's hand was up.
Chair, thank you. I'm covered, Chair. My question would have been around the verification of the library books and the losses associated with that. Thank you.
No, thank you very much. If I get from the presentation and the discussion that flow in the generally museums, I think you've mentioned something about museum that they are not insured.
That's correct, Chair. So the assets, the heritage assets that are held within museums are also not insured. That's correct.
Okay.
Thank you. Can I ask if Dr. Lamuka is back on the line? Dr. Lamuka, are you back on the line?
Yes, HOD, I'm back on the line now.
Can you please try and answer and help us? Thank you.
Okay. I could, at the time when Member Partman was speaking, my line was very poor. So I couldn't get the answer, the question exactly. But just to comment on what the chair has mentioned, yes, museum artifacts are not insured, but certain museums do insure the buildings, but not artifacts. If Chair, I can just request.
So it's only the building that is insured. The content in the building is not insured.
Yes, that's what normally happens.
Okay.
Yeah.
Chair, may I repeat my question?
Yes, yes, Honorable.
Thank you. The question was about the comparison of the cost of insurance versus the investment of security. So we've now heard that it's essentially cheaper and easier for the risk to rather spend money on security, given the risk of whatever the asset is, compared to the amount that we'll be spending on insurance. But now I would like to know, okay, what would that cost of insurance be? And what is the cost of security, so that we are able to compare the two, whether it is that way, if you understand what I mean.
Yes, I understand, Member. I think, let me put it like this. When one looks at the insurance for museum artifacts, you look at the purpose. The purpose is you will insure something so that when it got stolen or whatever reason happens to it, and then you are able to replace it. In this case, you can insure it for R1 million, but if an artifact is lost, it is lost. If, for example, it was a collection of bees that was collected in 1910 or 1850, when that is lost, no matter how much you've insured it, you will never recover it. That is why, in this case, in terms of the museological practices, so we do not even go to a point of comparing the cost of insuring it. We're looking at the fact that even how cheap or how comparable it is, but the bottom line is they are irreplaceable. So there is no monetary value that can be attached to them. Thanks, Chair.
Can I clarify my question, because I think we are talking about two different things.
Can you clarify further, Advocate?
So my question wasn't regarding the museum assets, because we established in the beginning, okay, there are some things that are irreplaceable. It doesn't matter how much money we get from insurance, it can never buy it back. So in the Treasury regulation on slide 4, yes, under 12.1.2, it spoke about other movable assets. So examples are made of like tables and books and stuff like that, things that we can buy back. So for example, if I bought Little Red Riding Hood as a book from the library and it got stolen, and we heard that there's 2% losses of the library, for example, we can still buy Little Red Riding Hood back. So that's an example. Or if the table, we can buy back. So now my question is, we've heard that the cost of insurance is very high in terms of those other movable assets, a list that apparently we get from Treasury. So now my question is, well, what is that exorbitant cost? and compare to that how much do we spend on security. Because if we can then see as a committee also, yes, this is an exorbitant cost, then it would make sense that, okay, we are not insuring compared to the investment in security. But at the moment, all we hear is that there is an exorbitant cost, but we don't know how much it is, if you understand what I mean.
Can I try and try and provide some texture to the answer?
Yeah.
So even
Yes,
if we were to insure, Chair, we would not remove security. So even if we were to insure, insurance would insist that we have security. That's like our homes.
Okay. Thanks. Thanks, HOD. I think is that, are you satisfied, Advocate?
For now, Chair.
Okay. Thanks. Are there any further questions to the department? If there are no further questions from members, that means we have come to the end of this presentation. Let me make use of the opportunity to thank the delegation from the department. Thank you very much. HOD, CFO, Doc, and other members of your delegation.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you for hosting us this morning. We hope we've answered the questions, and we wish you well further for the day. Thank you very much, Chair. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Now,
Bye. Thank you. Ready?
The next presentation will be from the Department of Economic Development and Tourism. I've been informed that they are now available. Can I hand over the department to introduce their delegation?
Good morning, Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes,
Hi,
sir.
good morning. I'm Solly Fourie. I'm the head of Department Economic Development and Tourism. And with me today, I have my CFO, Ms. Maimuna Abrams, and Ms. Bronwyn Mott, who's responsible for our internal control. Chair, the presentation is going to be done by Ms. Abrams, and we'll do concluding remarks at the end. So if, with your permission, I'd hand over to Ms. Abrams. Thank you.
Over to you, Ms. Abrams. Ms. Abrams.
Good morning, and thank you for allowing us to present to the Standing Committee. So we've been asked as a department to present on our department's investment and impairment of our investment for the 18-19 financial year. But I do think it's important for us to provide some background in terms of how the impairment as well as the investment has arisen within the department. So my initial slides will provide some background to that. In terms of the CTICC, the CTICC is a municipal public entity, and it's been established in terms of the Convenco Act. At the point of establishment, the original shareholders for the CTICC was the City of Cape Town, the Western Cape Government, and Sunwest International. The CTICC officially opened up in June 2003. I think importantly to note that...
Sorry, Chair.
Yes, Ms. Abrams, I think there's an echo in your
Yeah, there's an echo
vicinity there.
No, the echo normally happens if the speakers are not on mute.
Okay.
So I think if the members
So it's
could
fine now. It looked like it's
fine.
fine.
Okay.
Sounds fine.
Okay, so just maybe the next slide speaks to why the Western Cape government impaired. So during 2002, a study was commissioned by Professor Barry Standish, to look at what the economic impact would be for a new CTICC. And what the study showed is that the following key macroeconomic indicators, what the key macroeconomic indicators showed is that there would be a significant increase in jobs, significant increase in GDPR, as well as an increase in tourism and all its related activities. Further to that, the CTICC also through the 15 years of the extraordinary experiences also showed how that impact study was actually proven by contributing over 36.3 billion to the national GDP, 32 billion to the Western Cape economy, over 16 million visitors days with nearly 7,000 events, and in all the other highlights that you're seeing on the screen in front of you. Obviously, given that situation, what then happened in 2010 and 2012, two new studies was introduced to look at the impact of a CTICC expansion. And during 2011-2012, what we found was that Cabinet, using the impact study, which clearly showed that there was economic rationale again to expand or invest further within the CTICC. And what Cabinet approved was that the Department of Economic Development or the Western Cape government could then invest further and expand on the investment. The department then introduced or purchased an additional amount of shares, and our shareholding grew from 14,200 shares to 60,425 shares. Important to note, our investment also then grew from 142 million to an amount of 304 million. At that point, what we found is that our original shareholding slightly decreased, mainly because the City of Cape Town invested far more. So in relation to the City of Cape Town, our percentage shareholding was 23.2%, the City of Cape Town 71.4%, and in Sunwest International, that did not take up the offer for further expansion, reduced significantly to 5.4%. I think it's important just to understand the reason for the further investment. So taking the context of the investment, we now move on to how did the impairment come about? So again, important to note that when we look at an impairment, the public sector is obliged to comply with the modified cash standard, which is the acceptable standard across the public sector, whereas CTICC needs to comply with GRAP 26. So the definition of an impairment in terms of the modified cash standard is that an impairment is a loss in the future economic benefit or service potential of an asset. In terms of GRAP, it's an impairment of a loss in the future economic benefits or service potential of an asset over and above its depreciation considerations. And I think important to notice the conditions for recognition. So the conditions for the recognition of any impairment is that the recoverable amount must be less than the carrying value. There should be negative future cash flows, and obviously the current economic conditions are unfavorable. Further to that, the definitions around carrying value is the carrying amount is the amount at which an asset is recognized after deducting any accumulated depreciation and accumulated impairment losses. The recoverable amount is the recoverable amount of an asset. It's the higher of its fair value, market value less cost to sell in its value in use. Whereas the value and in use is an estimate of the future cash flows that the entity derives from the asset. And the future cash flows is the present value of the future cash flows, which is a method of discounting cash that you expect to receive in the future to the value at that current time. So just a bit of definitions so that we can provide some context in terms of the calculation. So how did the impairment come about? So during 2006 financial year, the CTICC, on recommendation of the AG, went through its first valuation exercise of property, plant and equipment. At that point, they consulted with PwC, and PwC determined that given that there is no active market for a CTICC type of an asset as well as the building, the value in use method needed to be used. At the point of this initial valuation, and mainly because the CTICC was still very much in its inception stage, the occupancy rate was at 42.18%, whilst an optimal occupancy rate for a CTICC needed to be at least at 60%. So again, given that it was early days, at that point the books wouldn't have been, or they wouldn't have had a full booking system at that point of inception. What the calculation determined was that the recoverable amount was extremely low, 78 million, and given that the carrying value was significantly less, this resulted in the first impairment charge of 308 million. And this was during 2006-2007. Impairment, I must say, it was at that point, it was something of impairment of assets was very new to the public sector. The modified cash standard, the department's accounting standard, was also very silent on how would we need to disclose an impairment. So during that period, after the AG specifically asked the department to disclose this in the financial statements, we approached the National Treasury through the Provincial Treasury for guidance on how we should disclose our percentage of the impairment. And what you should be seeing now is the advice given by National Treasury. And simply stated, what National Treasury then advised us is to look at our percentage shareholding and basically calculate our impairment share as a part of the bigger CTICC impairment. So at that point, the department disclosed the first impairment at 77 million, which equates to 25% our shareholding of what the full impairment was. So that is the initial impairment. And between 2006-2007 up until the 2018-19, which is what today's question is about, we then followed a similar exercise. In 2018-2019, why was it so different and why was the impairment so significant? What we discovered in 2018-2019 was due to our further investment in CTICC, so CTICC 2, what happened in that period was the CTICC 1 and CTICC 2 was seen as one single asset. And at the date of impairment testing, the CTICC 2, because of significant delays in construction, was not being brought into use. So there was a significant reduction in expected cash flows. So at that point, when CTICC did their initial or the evaluation exercise, they calculated or recognized an impairment loss of 462 million. But again, I want to stress that the main reason was because of CTICC 2 not being brought into its operation. Interestingly to note, so our percentage share, of that 462 million was then brought into our financial statements at 107 million. I think interestingly to note, when we looked at our impairment over the 3 years, what we could show is that in 2017, because the CTICC's operation was in full swing, they were doing really well, the department had no impairment. In 2018-19, mainly because of the CTICC expansion and CTICC 2 not being brought into operation, we had a significant impairment. Obviously, we've just completed our financial statements for 2019-2020, and it's what I wanted to show is that for the 2019-2020 financial year, what we now was able to determine was that the CTICC's impairment has significantly reversed. So for 2019-2020 financial year, what our financial statements are showing is a significant decrease of 107 million, 108, to only 592,000 impairment. So clearly, the CTICC2 has been brought into the operations. It's been the CTICC have obviously had significant increases in terms of the cash flow, and that has shown us that the impairment has actually reversed or reduced quite significantly. So I just want to remind us again that the impairment is a result of the recoverable amount, which is less than where the recoverable amount is less than the carrying value, no impairment is required. Obviously, when we look at where we are right now, and it's probably going to be one of our post-balance sheet events, what we are saying is that given COVID-19, and given that all tourism has actually come to a stop, we are expecting a significant loss of revenue. And as CTICC has indicated, most of their bookings have been cancelled. So we are expecting for our 2021 financial year, again, a significant impairment that will probably be disclosed in both the CTICC's financial statements as well as the department's financial statements. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam. Are there any questions, honorable members?
No question, Chairperson.
Even from you, Advocate?
I'm just very happy that I got some clarity on the matter, Chairperson.
Okay. Thanks very much.
Chair.
Honorable America?
No, I agree with Honorable Honorable Bartman. I'd like to thank the department for the clarity they provided as to how they arrived at the impairment, and it is regrettable that that due to COVID-19 is that we will see a significant increase in the impairment in the next balance sheet. But if I look at from 2018 to 2019 and the reduction in the impairment, it is quite remarkable. So furthermore, I would like to ask Chair, in terms of it's mute in this at this stage because we don't really know the impact on the impairment as a result of COVID-19. Perhaps maybe I should leave the question for some other stage where we operate in a more normalized, if one could call it that, environment. But what I wanted to know, and I'm just throwing it out there, so I don't need a response to it, is that what would be an acceptable occupancy rate for us to have the least impairment reflected in our balance sheet? But certainly it is very difficult to predict that now at this stage, given the uncertainty in the thank you, Chair.
Thank you for a later iteration, because we are really uncertain as to when the tourism market, and particularly the business tourism market, is going to be able to start functioning. Our initial projections are showing us that it could be anything from February next year to July next year. And those are kind of very difficult times for us to be able to have any kind of certainty. And at this stage, it is, as I said, scenarios and modeling that we are doing for the whole of the economy's recovery. But for the tourism, and particularly the international side of tourism, we're seeing anything between February and July of next year. So it's very difficult at this stage to be able to predict how the impairment is going to look at the end of the end of the 2020-2021 financial year. I'm sure the CFO may want to come in as well.
Thanks, Ms. Fourie. Thanks, Mr. Fourie. Ms. Abraham?
So I think I agree with what the HOD is saying. Just maybe small issues that within the CTICC's business growth plan, they look at an optimal occupancy rate of at least 60%. So, but it is all dependent on what's going to happen post-COVID and how the tourism sector, how quick the tourism sector is going to recover. Okay.
Thanks very much. Any further questions, Honorable? No further questions.
Chair, we
Yes,
must
Chairperson,
not ask
one
questions for
question.
question's sake.
Oh yes, Honorable Mackenzie.
Thank you, Chairperson. So I was in and out because I got cut off. But just on the last point that Mr. Fourie made about the business tourism sector, and we all know why and where we are. And I saw some innovation from Wesgrow around the virtual tourism, etc. What would his advice be to current tour operators, small businesses, and when we go down to level 3.2, hopefully in the next month or 6 weeks, we'll be down to level 2. Is there a space for people to start doing local tourism, not only for the sake of children need to get out of the house, they've been in the house for 3-4 months, some schools are going back, some not. Like the not drive from here to nice. I mean, I'm talking about to the West Coast, 2-hour drives, weekend spaces. I mean, what would his advice be to tour operators in trying to start building the tourism economy without us getting there next year, Jan, February? Thank you.
Okay, Chair. So we're working quite hard on a submission, which we hope to have done by Tuesday of next week, where we are going to request the Department of Trade and Industries and the National Department of Tourism and the Department of COGTA to be able to reduce or to reduce the alert level for tourism to come back on a domestic basis from level 2 to level 3. We believe that is critical for our economy in the Western Cape. And then to answer Honorable Mackenzie, it is going to be evolutionary. So we are going to have to start with metro tourism, so freeing up coffee shops and those kind of things. And then maybe looking at weekend tourism, so an hour, 2 hours outside of Cape Town, driving to Ceres, driving to those kind of 2-hour window opportunities to start stimulating the tourism in the non-metro towns. And so we can get the bed and breakfasts to go. We can get the kind of coffee shops and restaurants and farm stalls to go. But it is going to be an enormously difficult one. We've also now, together with the tourism industry, developed a set of guidelines for the prevention and the management of the spread of the virus within their particular environments. And so we see all of those things happening, but I think it is a very fluid situation that we're going to have to monitor for the next 3 months as we slowly look to coming back into some form of domestic tourism, but it will definitely not be enough to ignite a significant change in the fortunes of the CTICC in the short to medium term.
Thank you very much. Chair, can I just ask one follow-up question, please?
Welcome.
Thank you, Chair. And I think that, yes, and I think now that Mr. Fourie is here, so let me abuse the opportunity because he's in charge of the department. Mr. Fourie, what I've picked up, and particularly the last few days, I've been sort of mainly working on the Cape Flats, and I'm going to use one example. Here in Retreat Main Road, there's 1 or 2 small businesses, or call it micro businesses, working on the pavement of their house, just literally outside their house. The one is selling fruit and veg, the other one was selling Cook Sisters the other day. And how would you encourage or try to stimulate the economy with what I call the pavement economy, to start encouraging more people, particularly those with the means to do so, to use their spaces right outside their home? I don't expect people to drive to a market or to a Sunrise flea market, just to encourage people, those who have the means to do so, listen, if you can sell Cook Sisters outside your house between 10 and 2, if you can sell Gatsby's, homemade Gatsby's outside here, just to give those at home an opportunity to earn income, and also to avoid that massive flow to retail stores, which we all know is becoming a hot spot or hot bread for this virus. I mean, what is your thoughts around that? Thank you, Chair.
So Chair, I think we are promoting very, very aggressively the expansion of the informal economies and the spaza and informal shop economies. We believe that it is going to be one of the vehicles that we're going to have to use in an economic recovery phase, where people are able to generate income from that. Between the start of the lockdown and the 19th of May, because I know my submission to cabinet was just yesterday, the municipalities have issued 12,300 informal trading permits to enable businesses to trade within the alert levels. Of course, there is the challenge of, are they able to exercise the social distancing, the 5 golden rules of hygiene to stop the spread? So it's social distancing, it's hand washing and so on. And we're encouraging that. And we've also developed a set of guidelines for informal traders to help them prevent the spread of the virus. That is largely being launched within what we call in the Western Cape government, the hotspots that we're seeking to manage, but it's also applicable in other areas. So we're busy with it, and we're seeking to encourage that. Thank you, Chair. Hello.
Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, thank you very much.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was my answer. It is something we're doing, and to answer Honourable Mackenzie, we're really trying to make sure that informality can thrive within the spaces that we've got, particularly with regards to the challenges of lack of income for households at the moment.
Thanks very much, Mr. Fourie. Yellow, Mr. Fourie?
Yeah. Yes, thank you. Can you, that was my answer, Chair.
Okay. No, thanks very much. I think then, Honourable, if there are no further questions, that take us to the end of this presentation. And let me make use of this opportunity to thank the Department of Economic Development and Tourism for their presentation, as well as the delegation as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to my CFO for doing the presentation. And Chair, we apologize for being a little late, but we had it as 10 in our calendar, so we just make that apology. But thank you for the time.
No, thank you very much. I'm glad I was also not alone in that, because I also thought it was 10:30, but and I saw now in the correspondence, it was actually my mistake. It was actually 10:15.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thanks.
Bye-bye, honourable members.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Honourable Mackenzie, on a lighter note, we must try and always encourage our people not to be in perpetual informality. If they can also try and start zooming into the mainstream of the economy as well.
I agree with you, member. I was just saying, with the current situation, those that can do so must do so. But yeah, I fully agree with you, definitely.
You know, with this informality, if you look at the spaza shops now, there was a stage where they were thriving, but if you go there now in the spaza shops, you will see there are other people who have occupied that space.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, interesting. Thank you very much, honourable members. Now that make us move to the next item on the agenda, which is the consideration and adoption of minutes. Can I ask the members of staff to put for us, if you can just roll it up. You see there in attendance is, you can go up. That was item 2, which was the briefing by the Auditor General of South Africa. Item 3 was the briefing by the Provincial Forensic Services. And then item 4 was the consideration and adoption. Then item 5 was the matters arising. Item C.
Chair, in matters arising.
Okay. Item 5.
Chair, perhaps for resolution later, if it might be considered. I was thinking about it because the HTA that we are inviting also to get some answers from is an entity of the national government. So I wanted to find out if it wouldn't be prudent of us to also invite the department that oversees them as well to the meeting. So that is just, I just want to find out from you your views on that, because otherwise who does the entity report to?
I really don't have a problem with that. I think we can actually even extend it to that extent. We can extend that invitation to them.
Thank you, Chair.
That's fine. And then there were the resolution. Item 6, and then that took us to the end there. Now, there you've got it, members. Are there any matters arising out of that? Except this one that I think we will take this as a matter arising, this one that was raised by Advocate Batman as well.
Yes, Chairperson.
It's a matter that arises out of that.
I'm Chair.
Yes, Honorable. Yes, Honorable.
I move to adopt the minutes, Chair.
Thank you very much. Seconder?
I second. Chair.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Honorable Matlodi Maseko. Now, having adopted the minutes, we might now move to resolution. Maybe just before we get to resolution, I know to a certain extent that maybe before, it's part of the, if you look at the minutes that we have just gone through, there were requests that we've made regarding the expenditure, especially on the solidarity funding. Yes, to maybe can I just check on the staff members, how is progress on that? Because the way I understand, honorable members, if we take a decision maybe this week, I would like us maybe on the following week, if we can be made abreast or we can be updated on the progress on the request that we've made.
Yes, Chairperson. Thank you for that, Chairperson. So that letters will be going out after this meeting, Chairperson. And then I will provide written feedback, Chairperson, because Chairperson, why those letters will be going out after this meeting, Chair, is because I need to attach this approved minutes with the letters, Chairperson, because a lot of the times the departments ask us for for the minutes where the committee has made that resolution, Chairperson, for them to provide the committee with the information, Chairperson. I will also put in the letter, Chairperson, under your signature this afternoon, that they please provide us as soon as possible with information, Chairperson. And then, Chairperson, if the committee wants to chair, we can also put that for further briefings with the department, if the committee, after they receive the information, if they want further briefing or engagement with the department on it, we can put that in the committee program as well, Chairperson.
Okay. Just to be clearer also on that, on those, I think there were two specific requests we've made on, while it's on the expenditure on the solidarity funding. But I think also if you go down to resolution, to the minutes previously, really, 5. To number 5.
Oh, to the matters arising, Chair.
Yes, I think it was the issue of one of the really things we were concerned about is that there was all this much talked about expenditure that was done on food parcels, and also the allocation that has been made to municipalities in local government in particular. Those were the two ones really we were kind of interested in, because as to see whether, because what we say we're trying to prevent is that we don't want to see at some stage when there has been quite a lot of expenditure and there might have been also a lot of irregularities. We only look at these things after they have actually happened. I just wanted to stress on that. No. Otherwise, I'm happy. Otherwise, I'm happy with that. Now, if we go to the resolution,
Chair.
Yes, Honorable Maseko.
I think to add on what you were saying, another thing I'm seeing all the time on the media about the cost of the food parcel, that it seems there's a lot of corruption happening there. So that is a motivation enough for us to say, can we have a look at what is happening exactly? How is that funds being used in different constituencies?
Yes, Chair.
No, excellent. Thank you very much, Honorable. Just also on the issue before, maybe we might also get to resolution. I just wanted to inform members regarding some progress we have been making on the issue of the Dorenbach matter, because I really want us to, we've agreed at our previous meeting that this matter will be dealt with on the 12th of June. And part of the reasons that we also felt that maybe we would like to have a person-to-person discussion instead of a virtual meeting. But obviously, we need to inform the speaker accordingly and also request the speaker for the use of the chambers. Of course, we haven't got a response yet from the speaker, but I could gather in the corridors, there seems to be problems around us having to conduct this meeting on a sit-in matter rather than having it as a virtual. So I think also then if it comes to the point whereby maybe we are not allowed to use the chambers, I think we'll just continue with it then on the 12th of June with it as a virtual meeting, so that we can just get over this thing and finish with it. Because part of the reason we wanted it, I think the spirit in which we wanted it on the sit-in matter was that in case maybe they can be break up in the signal and people won't have data and all those things, then while they're busy presenting, it might not happen. But if there are problems with that, but I think we'll still remain having it on the 12th of June. If we are not allowed to have a sit-in, we'll continue with it as a virtual. I don't know how do members feel about it.
Can I come in, Chair?
Honorable Matlodi.
Okay. Chair, I agree with you. Whatever the way that we can deal with the issue, we must deal with the issue. But again, I'm just cautioning that as the politicians, and we say people have to go back to work, and we say we cannot do the work from the parliament. We need to get that balance that our communities don't say that. We say we expose them, but we usually don't want to be exposed. But it is our decisions as a parliament, as a politicians, to say life has to change for businesses to operate and other things. Just a caution. Let's get the
balance
feedback from the speaker in writing about the balance and say, speaker, if he says no, he must put it in writing. We wanted to do it differently and we couldn't because he's a custodian of the building.
Exactly. Thank you very much for that, Honorable. We basically trying to say we must practice what we are preaching. Ne?
Thanks, sir.
Is Honorable.
You nailed it, sir.
Yes, no, I fully agree with the Honorable Maseko, and also agree with you as well that it would be very much questioned by other members, that the scoper that is normally questioning other people is the one that would find itself in hot waters now. So I think, yeah, indeed, we must get it in black and white. And then if indeed the response from the speaker is that, or the advice, because the speaker is also definitely consulting the rest of the collective in terms of the opening and the sitting, the physical sitting of Parliament going forward. So we would have to sit virtually, and then so that we would be able to hear and go to the deepest part of this thing, so that at the end of the day, we're very much informed about the dynamics around it. Thanks, Chair.
No, thanks very much about that. I see Mr. David, your hand is up.
Yes, thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, just from an administrative point of view, Chairperson, Chair, if you look at the scope of mandate, Chairperson, it is basically how we're dealing with this matter can be via the financial statements, or it can be through a report of the Auditor General, Chairperson. Now, if you remember, we did schedule a meeting for the 24th of April, which was postponed on this Doornbach matter. And in the letter that went to the Auditor General, Chairperson, under your signature, we've actually asked the Auditor General to investigate the matter. We gave them the documents from Member Heron, where we made certain allegations to investigate the matter within the Auditor General itself, because they do audits with the City of Cape Town, they do audits with the Department of Human Settlements, both provincially and nationally. They have audit teams in the HDA as well. So, Chairperson, the Auditor General has not yet given us any report yet, Chairperson, to basically either affirm or negate what has initially been given to us from the certain member, Chairperson. So, Chair, I just wanted to find out from you, can we write in another letter for emailing to the AG this afternoon, where we asked them that they must look, that there's a meeting coming up on the 12th of June, to please give us a report back, so that we at least as the committee have something to go on from an objective point of view. Okay, look, this is the current situation from our audit teams regarding this matter at the various stakeholders, Chairperson. That was just an idea, Chairperson, to assist the committee further in the oversight task. I don't know if it can work.
I don't think there's any problem with that, Mr. David. That's fine.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you. Then I will draft all the letters, Chair, after this meeting, and I will forward it to you for your signature, Chair, and then forward it on to the various stakeholders.
Thank you very much. Then the other point, I think I will ask the procedural officer to raise, because it was a correspondent that was sent to me. It was regarding the APEC, ne?
APEC Chair.
Yes. If you can just continue, just maybe inform the members, report to the members regarding that.
Thank you, Chairperson. So, Chairperson and members, we basically each quarter APEC has meetings with the committee, but for the last, I think for the last year, they didn't call any meeting. However, we received an invite 2 days ago for a virtual meeting where they want to discuss the Auditor General MFMA outcomes. So that's the local government audit outcomes on the 28th of May, 10 till 12. But Chair, they now indicated that they need 3 people at the meeting, and we must indicate as the committee who will then attend. It's you as the Chairperson, another member, and then a staff member Chairperson. So, Chairperson, it's tabled now for the committee Chairperson for the attention, Chair, bearing in mind that it is a MFMA audit outcome meeting, Chairperson.
Okay, thanks very much, Mr. David. Any member that is available to be part of the meeting?
Chair, initially,
Honorable America?
No, I was just saying, I initially thought that the meeting was on the 26th of May, and I indicated my availability, but I see it's on the 28th of May. On that day, I am not available, so I would not be able to attend. Yes.
Okay. I heard there was another member that says he or she must be available. Which member? Who's available? Who's available?
Honorable Maseko, I support that.
Okay. Thank you very much, Honorable Maseko. And then also, while we are on this matter, procedural officer.
Yes, Chair.
I remember there was at some stage there. What happened to the payment?
Chairperson, yes, Chairperson, we normally pay annual subscription fees of 138,000 to belong to APEC for the year. Chair, I would normally pay that Chairperson from the committee section budget. However, that function has been moved over to the Office of the Speaker, Chairperson. The Office of the Secretary, the Office of the Speaker, they pay all of the different affiliation fees, Chairperson, of the different standing committees, where reasonable. Chairperson, from what I know, Chairperson, there has been queries, Chairperson, to APEC on payments and the value that we received. Chair, as I say, for the last year, we didn't have any meetings with APEC, Chairperson, and as well as there are some legislatures which has not paid, Chairperson, for a couple of years now. So, and also APEC is busy transitioning, Chairperson, for the last year or two, from the Auditor General to the Legislative Support Service in National Parliament, under the Speaker's domain, Chairperson. So, yeah, there's a lot in limbo, Chairperson. I will find out from the Office of the Speaker what's the update, Chairperson. But so far, I haven't received any negative comment from APEC, Chair.
No, I'm happy with that. No work, no pay, ne? No service, no payment, ne?
Yes, Chair.
Good day, Chairperson. Lizette. Good day, members.
Yes.
Dustin will receive formal correspondence, but the Speakers Forum is basically dealing with this matter now. So it was on the agenda for the Speakers Forum, and I think they're going to make a decision in this body.
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Lizette. Now, having discussed all of that, now members, can we go to resolutions? Mr. David, you want to guide us?
From the resolution, Chairperson, I haven't actually captured any resolution, Chairperson, because most of the questions were answered by the department from which the members raised their questions. So I didn't capture any information, so any resolutions or requests for documentation, Chairperson. I don't know if the members have anything to add, Chair, in terms of resolutions.
Chair, I just want to find out the question regarding whether HTA's national department can come. Is that already captured?
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, member, for that. Chair, that is in our protocol, Chairperson. When we do invite all of the stakeholders, Chairperson, then we normally, because HDA falls under a national competence, so then we will inform the national minister. We will inform the respective head of department in Pretoria, and we will inform the HOD of the HDA nationally, and then the regional head of HDA as well, Chairperson. So we will follow that line of protocol, Chairperson.
And I think also, Justin, if I remember correctly, at some point we did inform the national minister about this, and I remember actually receiving correspondence to that effect where she acknowledged receipt of that.
Yes, Chairperson. So we did send, in preparation for the postponed meeting of the 24th of April, Chairperson, we did send a letter to the national minister and the national department, Chairperson, as well as the provincial HDA, to indicate that we are busy communicating with the regional HDA, and we have postponed the meeting, etc. Or that time we were planning the meeting, and then the minister indicated that she will give us feedback. She will liaise with the department and the HDA themselves, and then provide feedback, Chairperson. So far, we haven't received any feedback, Chairperson, to let you know. Hence, there's a fresh
Honorable Mr. David? Mr. David? Members, can you hear me?
Chair, sorry,
Yeah.
Chair. Yes, sorry, Chairperson. Sorry, Chair. Chairperson, also on that, Chair, for the 12th of June, Chairperson, the evaluators, just for the members' attention, Chair, there were two evaluators that was mentioned in the documents from Member Heron. The one evaluator I cannot trace, Chairperson. I've looked far and wide. That evaluator doesn't pick up their phones. They don't respond to emails. And then the second evaluator, Chairperson, I've emailed, and they indicated that they will wait for instructions from the City of Cape Town, because the City of Cape Town is their client, whether they should brief us with the valuations data, Chairperson. But that, Chairperson, we can, just for the members' attention, Chairperson. So, but yeah, I don't know how we're going to go on with that, Chairperson, from the evaluators to come and brief us on the 12th of June, Chairperson.
No, that's fine. Thank you very much for that information, Mr. David. If then that means that for now there will only be one resolution really that we are taking. That will be in terms of just reaffirming the fact that we are going to approach the national department as well to inform them and also invite them on the.
Yes.
Is there any other resolution, members, that you'd like the committee to take?
Chair, can I just ask another question?
Yes, Mr. David.
Yes, Chair. Sorry, there's the draft committee program as well, Chairperson. I don't know if you want to take the committee through that program, Chairperson, just to look at the dates that we've got, Chairperson, for this year and our sitting dates, etc.
Yes, I remember you were saying the reason for us to relook in that is because of all the program that has been changing because of COVID-19 and the fact that even National Treasury as well have said that some of the activities that used to happen at certain times during the year is not going to happen. Do you want to put that on the screen or?
Yes, Chairperson. I'll just wait for Ms. Kluter to just put that.
But in the meantime, maybe it might assist if you can just further explain it for the benefit of the members.
Okay, Chairperson. So basically, what is happening, Chairperson? There was a circular that was sent from Provincial Treasury. There's a national directive from the minister indicating for the annual report period, Chairperson. Now, our annual report period is October and November. For that period, Chairperson, basically the submissions of the annual report, it's submitted to the legislatures the beginning of October, and then for the month of October we schedule meetings to sit with the departments and the entities on the annual reports, Chairperson. However, with the new guidelines from Provincial Treasury due to the COVID lockdown, it might seem, Chairperson, that the departments will only be able, or they submitting the annual reports in December this year, Chairperson. Now, Chairperson, we must still meet next week with the Accountant General and with some Provincial Treasury officials virtually, me and Lizette Kluter, just to find out, Chairperson, because it's not only us, Chairperson, we must let the Programming Committee also know about this. If it is the case, Chairperson, we must let the Speaker of Parliament also know about this, Chairperson, if it is the case, Chairperson. But what we've seen now, the correspondence and the official communication, Chair, is that the submission of the annual reports is December this year, Chairperson. And so that means, Chairperson, from a meeting with the department's point of view on the annual reports, we will then sit maybe the last week in January and for the month of February, Chairperson. But as I say, Chairperson, that's only an assumption, Chair, based on the communication, Chair. We will give the committee feedback, Chairperson, once we've done meeting with Provincial Treasury, Chairperson.
Oh, that's fine then. Thanks for that. Let's wait for the feedback then from your meeting. Then maybe at our next meeting, in maybe in 2 meetings time, we can have a look at it.
Yes, Chairperson. But for the time being, Chairperson, I've looked at the program with you, Chairperson, and even some of the resolutions.
Can you go up the program? Can the program go up?
Yes, Chairperson. So there's last week's meeting, that was the 8th of May, Chair. That was last week's meeting.
Yes.
And if we can just, okay, there's today's meeting, Chair, the 22nd of May. Then there's the 12th of June, Chairperson. And then from the 24th of June, Chair, so the resolutions that we've taken last week, I've so far captured it for the 24th of June, Chair, that we have WCD come brief us on the Provincial Forensic Services. And then there's a matter that Member Barkan also raised last week, and Member Maseko. I've included that also for the 24th of July, Chair. And then basically, Chair, there's the 14th of August as well. There's the resolutions that we've just adopted now for last week's meeting. I've included that for the 14th of August, Chairperson. And then we basically go into the September as well, Chairperson. So the 11th of September, Chair. That will...
Sorry, Justin.
Yes, Chair.
That means this decision that we've taken about the social development and local government,
yes,
when
Chair,
that information comes, we'll only look at it in August.
No, Chair, this is just a draft, Chair. This is just to give the committee something to work with, Chair. But you, as the committee, can change it, Chairperson. Where if you guys want the dates changed and so forth, Chair, it's just something just to capture and show the committee. But it's for the changing of the committee.
I've got no problem with that. But the sooner we get that information, the better it can be presented to the committee. But it's fine for purposes of putting this on the program. I don't have a problem with that.
No problem, Chairperson, I will liaise with you in the week as well. Then if you, how you want the dates to be changed, Chair, we can change that as well.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. David. Are there any other issues, honorable members, that you'd like to raise? If there are no further issues, that means that we have come to the end of our meeting. Thank you very much, honorable members.
Thank you, Chair. Bye.